In recent years, the Pokemon Company has taken to making animated trailers and short films to help promote their new games. They did it with Black 2 and White 2, they did it with Mega Evolutions and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and then during the lead up to Pokemon X and Y, they gave us a 4-part series titled Pokemon Origins. This special followed the events of Red, the trainer from Generation 1, and its remakes Fire Red and Leaf Green, as he traveled through the Kanto region, defeated Team Rocket, and ultimately arose to catch them all and become the Pokemon champion. Now, this special was exciting. To me personally, I loved this special. Now, I understand that there are some complaints about it. Many people have brought up that it does condense down a lot of the game's events. We skip over a bunch of gym leaders. We don't see a whole lot of the Elite Four challenge. There's also several locations that don't get featured. And again, I understand that, and I would have loved to have seen those too. That is why I could not be more excited for what we have been promised now. The follow-up to Pokemon Origins is going to be 18 3 to 5 minute shorts titled Pokemon Generations. This new series, which was announced by the Pokemon Company yesterday, is going to be about the untold stories, all of the events happening in the background, all the side characters. It's basically like what Pokemon Chronicles was to the anime. That is exciting. There are so many things that have happened off screen in the games. And let's be real here. The main plot of the Pokemon games is not very complex. You're a kid, you're going around the region, you're battling gym leaders, you're stopping an evil team from destroying the world. Nothing too terribly big and drastic. But there have been all of these hints, all of these questions that have been brought up over the years that would really make for good centerpieces for their own stories, and that is exactly what Pokemon Generations is promising to bring us. So now that they put out a teaser trailer for it, now that the first episode is going to go up on Friday, which I'm still shocked that this is happening so quickly after its announcement, I just wanted to sit down with you guys and go over the trailer that they provided us with and see what might we be in for. What will these 18 episodes be about? What Pokemon legends and stories and just fun, whimsical moments will we be provided with? Without further ado, let's just sit back, let's go through each screen piece by piece and see if we can't figure out ahead of time what can we get hyped for. Now, the first thing to mention is that this is not going to be a 4-part series like Pokemon Origins was. Like I said, this is going to be 18 3 to 5 minute shorts uploaded every Friday, starting this Friday, September 16th, and running through December 23rd. That means it will go past the release date for Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now, a few people have already asked, does that mean that there's going to be some Alola side stories? I'm going to err on the side of no, just because they've already said this is going to be Gens 1 through 6, Kanto to Kalos. But it's still a possibility. I don't want to write it off completely. I just don't want anybody to get their hopes up for it. So the first thing we see is this forest with a hole in the middle of it and a beam of light emerging from the hole. Now, originally, I thought this might be the giant chasm that Kyurem lives in. But as we see later in the trailer, there is a scene where Red meets Zygarde, and Zygarde is rising up towards a hole in the ceiling of a cavern with a beam of light surrounding it. It seems to me very likely that these two scenes are connected. So at some point during Pokemon Generations, Red is going to travel from Kanto to wherever Zygarde is, I'm guessing in Kalos, and he is going to have, hopefully, a really cool climactic battle with it. So at some point, we are going to get episode Red versus Zygarde. Now, the second shot in the trailer confused me for a minute until I remembered something. Have you ever noticed how in Generation 5 there's a lot of architecture that features large rooms with big gaping abysses beneath somewhat floating platforms? That looks very much like this shot here. I am actually willing to bet that this is Team Plasma's castle, and this is a gathering of the 7 sages. For what purpose? I'm not sure. At what point in the timeline? I'm not 100% certain. I think it's probably between Black and White and Black and White 2. Just because we don't actually know too much about what happened with Team Plasma when it had its fracture. We can see on the poster advertising Pokemon Generations that Gatesis and N will feature in this in some capacity. I think it's very easy to say there will be some episode that focuses on Team Plasma, likely between Black and White and Black and White 2. If that is not the case, then I'm hoping the episode for Team Plasma focuses on its origins, the formation of the team, the coronation of N, and how the team came to be the threat that Unova would someday fear. Our next scene focuses on the legendary beast standing atop the burned tower. Note the ominous dark clouds in the background and the very symbolic beams of light shining down from above. I'm very excited for this, and again, this is purely speculation, this is just my opinion, but I think this might actually be the burning of the brass tower and the resurrection of the legendary beast. This has been a scene that people have been talking about ever since Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal. This is one of the pivotal moments in the Pokemon mythos, one of the most legendary acts of a legendary Pokemon. It might be going a bit far to assume that they are going to show anything of this nature, but Ho-Oh is on the poster. It does look like this takes place during a storm. I think we are going to get an episode on the burning of the tower and the resurrection of the beasts. And now we are faced with the Dawn himself, Boss Rocket Giovanni, leader of Team Rocket. Notably, he's wearing his outfit from his exile as depicted in the Celebi event of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I was originally confused as to what story they could tell about his exile, since we already saw it during Heart Gold and Soul Silver's event. But here's something that we found in a series of screenshots released by the Pokemon Company. In this shot, we can see Giovanni wearing his outfit from his Fire Red and Leaf Green days. He's being investigated by a familiar figure, Looker of the International Police. Do you guys remember that Interpol agent that was on the SS Anne investigating Team Rocket? Well, I think we figured out exactly what they were doing after that encounter. Later on in the trailer, there's a series of scenes depicting Looker and the International Police breaking into a building. In one instance, they're using a Machamp to breach a wall, and in a screenshot, they're using a Magnemite to break an electronic lock. My theory is that at some point during the game, while Red is off taking the fight to Team Rocket in his own way, Looker and the International Police were coordinating to take down Team Rocket at one of their hideouts. What this tells me is that we are going to get an episode focusing on Giovanni and Looker of the International Police. Now this next bit gives me a chance to talk about what I think is going to be the overarching theme of Pokemon Generations. In this scene, we can see Red and his Pikachu being chased by a Noivern in a minecart. There are very few mines in the Pokemon video games, and the only one I can think of that would have a Noivern in it is Terminus Cave in Kalos. That's where we can find Zygarde in Pokemon X and Y. You remember earlier in this video where Red was encountering Zygarde? I think that that episode and this one are one and the same. I would think that this is just one large, singular, action-packed episode, but there is a scene later on in the trailer depicting a Pikachu, a very familiar Pikachu, facing off against a Regigigas outside what I can only assume to be Snow Point Temple. What this tells me is that there's going to be an episode, or a series of episodes, depicting Red's journey through the Pokemon regions up until Kalos, where he tries to capture Zygarde. And to further demonstrate this, a piece of concept art that was released by the Pokemon Company shows Pikachu going through the Relic Castle. We can see that it's the Relic Castle because of the very annoying quicksand hole on the floor. So we can already list off Sinnoh, Unova, and Kalos, potentially, as locations that Red will visit over the course of the series. This next bit shows a shiny Gyarados in a lake facing off against a ferocious Dragonite. This is obviously taking place during the events of Gold, Silver, and Crystal. However, it does raise an interesting question. In the games, it is the trainer who fights the red Gyarados and calms the Lake of Rage. It's unlikely that Ethan, Lyra, or Chris would be in possession of a Dragonite. However, Lance is also present for the fight with the red Gyarados, and he is in possession of 3 Dragonite. Does this suggest that, canonically, it was supposed to be Lance who fought the red Gyarados and managed to defeat it? This almost makes me wish that in his champion battle, he actually had a shiny Gyarados of his own. Because of the red Gyarados' narrative proximity to the events that go down in Mahogany Town, I think that this episode will tell us about Lance's perspective of the raid on Team Rocket's base right before the takeover of Goldenrod City. This next clip comes to us without a whole lot of context, but I think we can use an earlier segment to figure out exactly which episode it will be in. You see this Arcanine here? Well, we also saw an Arcanine during Looker and the International Police's raid on the potential Team Rocket headquarters. It looks like this Arcanine's flamethrower is actually being used to burn through a wall to gain deeper access into the building. We are then met with a scene of Buck and his Claydol fighting against Heatran on Stark Mountain, though there's no context for this scene outside of what we've already seen in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. We are then given a scene of Cheryl and her Chansey running from an overly large and frightening Haunter, which, hold up, is that a reference to the black fog of the Electric Tail of Pikachu? Either way, I think this scene occurs inside the old chateau, since it's one of the only places to find the Ghastly line in all of Sinnoh, and it happens to be located in Eterna Forest, where you meet Cheryl during your adventure in the game. This makes me wonder if we're going to get a full episode dedicated to what we call the stat trainers of Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. We see Buck and Cheryl, but we don't see Mira, Marley, or Riley. Each one of these characters is something of a fan favorite, particularly Riley because of his Lucario, so I think it would actually be a golden opportunity to give us a bit more of a look into these characters outside of their interactions with Dawn or Lucas. And now we get to what I would consider possibly the most exciting episode that we could ever get out of something like Pokemon Generations. We've all seen Red's trials against the Elite Four, both in our own experiences in the game, both in Ash Ketchum's efforts against the Pokemon Leagues of the anime, and in Pokemon Origins. But we have never seen Blue, Green, Gary, whatever you want to call him, we have never seen our rival from Generation 1 take on the Elite Four and earn that initial spot as Kanto League champion. Pokemon Generations seeks to fix that. Throughout the trailer, we see scenes of him fighting against Bruno, against Lance, and if you look at the Pokemon YouTube channel's banner, we can see a shot of his battle with Lorelei. The only character missing is Agatha, who will probably be just as creepy as she always is. The trailer ends with Blue, Green, Gary, whatever, having achieved his title as champion and turning to in-turn challenge Red as he enters the champion's chambers. I don't think we're going to see another battle of Blue, Green, Gary, whatever, challenging Red for the title of champion because we already saw that very much in depth in Pokemon Origins. However, I'm very certain, almost 100% certain, that the entirety of this episode will be Blue, Green, Gary, whatever, challenging the Kanto Elite Four and defeating them and earning his place as champion. Now that was everything that I could find in the trailer advertising Pokemon Generations, but in the poster that came with it, there's a few more characters in Legendary Pokemon that might get their own episode spotlights. Specifically, we can see AZ, Lysander, Cyrus, and also Primal Groudon, Kyogre, Giratina Origin Form, and Kyurem. These were never shown at all in the trailer, but it's very likely that each of them will have an episode dedicated to them, though it's possible that Giratina and Cyrus will get to share an episode, and that Kyurem will join a Team Plasma episode. But, and this is just my personal feelings, I would love to see these Pokemon get their own spotlights that don't have anything to do with the evil teams, since that's what the games were already about. We've already seen so much of these Pokemon interacting with the villains. It would be interesting to see Kyogre and Groudon at the creation of Hoenn, or possibly see what the actual Dragon of Unova looked like before it broke into 3 pieces. As for AZ, well, we could always do with a little bit more fleshing out of the Great War of 3,000 years ago, and I think many of us are still wondering whatever did happen to Cyrus after he just vanished into the distortion world, or what set him on the path to wanting to unmake the universe and derive it of spirit. These are all questions that would really benefit from getting an episode spotlight in Pokemon Generations. So let's close off this bout of speculation by taking a look back at all of our predictions over what kinds of episodes we will see. Now remember, there are only 18 episodes that will be included in Pokemon Generations. Thus far, we have listed off Red vs. Zygarde, Team Plasma, the Legendary Beasts, Giovanni and Looker, Red's continued journey, Lance's raid, the stat trainers, and Rival League champion. However, if you take the poster into account, we can also add on Cyrus and Team Galactic, AZ, Lysander, Primal Kyogre and Groudon, Kyurem, and Giratina. This is 14 out of 18 episode possibilities, and that's not counting any other episodes that Red might have in his continued journey. We might actually have already predicted what all 18 episodes would be about, but personally, I hope not. I really hope that there are going to be a lot of surprises included. I'm hoping that even after all the speculation, even after how excited I am just having recorded this and listed out what my ideas are, I'm hoping I'm wrong on at least a couple of them, or that I at least don't have the full picture, because I really think Pokemon Generations has a chance at being one of the greatest anime specials that Pokemon has released in recent years. That's going to do it for me. Thank you very much for listening to this video. Hopefully this has gotten you as excited for Pokemon Generations as I am. And if you think that there are other episodes you would like to see, or you think were hinted during the trailer or during the poster or any of the concept art that has come out since, please let me know in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear about it. But as a reminder, the first episode is getting uploaded to the Pokemon YouTube channel on Friday, so it won't be long before we get to see the first episode for ourselves. And when it goes up, I will see you there, and it is going to be a wonderfully fun time. I almost 100% guarantee it. This has been Falconwing with Bulbagarden, the original Pokemon community, wishing you all a good evening. Take care, trainers.